Whatever circumstances have brought you here, the fact remains that you are here in my domain. Sit back and relax. Enjoy the story.
The GIMP. Luke was an upstanding model citizen, well respected by his family, friends and peers. He was about to turn 30 in a couple months and felt like taking on a new challenge in life. One day, while he was looking for a new job, he saw one available that offered great pay, doing something he was passionate about. Immediately, he sent in his application and credentials. To his delight, he was given the job. Moving to a faraway location for this position, he would have to say goodbye to family and friends to begin his new life. A few weeks later, he was all moved into his new home. It was an older, but larger house in the woods of Brownsmills, New Jersey. This place was perfect for me, he thought as he looked around at all the peaceful sights and sounds of the woods surrounding his new home. He took in a deep breath of the brisk air and exhaled with a giant smile on his face. He said to himself, "Luke, you're finally there." Little did he know that he wasn't alone in those woods, and that this was only the beginning of his nightmare. One day, he went into town to get supplies. While at the gas station, filling up his car, he saw an old man that looked eager to talk. He was happy to oblige the older gentleman and engage in a conversation. According to the old man, there was a cryptid creature in these parts known as the GIMP. It was rumored to roam the area where Luke had recently just moved to. Luke thought the man a little odd, but didn't think much else about it and proceeded on with his day. Not long after that, Luke began experiencing strange events that he just couldn't explain. At first, it was small things he noticed, like the trash can knocked over when he got home from work. Things like this were easy to ignore, but soon he would hear strange noises outside his house at night, and found unknown tracks in the snow. He tried to dismiss these events as mere coincidence, but as time went on, the encounters became more intense. One evening, while Luke was sitting in his living room, watching his favorite YouTube channel, Artificial Narrative, he suddenly heard a loud banging on his front door. It was an intense, powerful knock, as if someone desperately needed inside for assistance. Then, before he could react, there was a loud crashing sound. He quickly got up to investigate, only to find that the front door was completely ripped off its hinges. There was no sign of anyone around. When he looked outside into the blackness of the night, he could feel the hairs on his arms and neck raising up, as if his body was trying to warn him of imminent danger. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. A little while after that incident, his next encounter happened in broad daylight. When he decided to explore the woods surrounding his home, Luke had always been an adventurous soul and was eager to explore the woods around his house deeply as possible. Luke was walking through the woods when he saw something out the corner of his eye. It was a figure of a man, or so he thought. Startled, he turned to the person he thought he saw to speak. But something was wrong. A feeling of terror came over him as he realized that what stood before him was no man. This was the very first time he saw the GIMP. The creature was about 7 feet tall, with long, gangly arms, a stocky build and a distorted face. It was sitting just inside the shadow of a large tree. Luke could see its eyes glowing red in the darkness, and he could tell the creature was covered in long hair of some type. Luke froze in fear, unsure of what to do. After what felt like an eternity to him, Luke was finally able to collect himself enough to turn around and run as fast as he could, back to his house. As he ran, he could hear these terrible screams. They were unlike anything he had ever heard in his life. It seemed the creature was chasing after him. Finally reaching his front door, he struggled to get the right key to open it. Panicked, he looked out to the woods from where he came and saw nothing. The disturbing shrieks had also stopped and he was able to get back inside his home. That night, Luke was on edge. His body wouldn't stop shaking as his mind was in pure terror at what he had witnessed. By now the sun had gone down, and outside his house, pitch blackness surrounded him. Around 2 in the morning, he thought he heard a noise at the window. Luke quickly ran to the window, pushing the curtains to the side to see what he could. Unfortunately, he couldn't see anything because the lights in his room were still on. He went over to the switch and shut them off, then returned to the window again, moving the curtains to the side. To his disbelief and horror, the creature was there, right on the other side of the window, staring back at him. Luke was frozen again with terror. He could only look and observe the angry expression on its face, that seemed to express nothing but absolute hatred. As it stood there moving its jaw up and down, the teeth in its mouth were unnaturally long and sharp. Then there were the red eyes. Like fire. Once he could feel his legs again, he ran, screaming as fast and loud as he could, to the bathroom, slamming the door behind him shut and locking it. That night he stayed there in the bathroom, inside his tub, curled into a ball, hiding the best he could. From time to time he could swear that he heard what sounded like nails scraping across the outside of the bathroom door. It was impossible to sleep. When the night was over, Luke bravely stepped out of his bathroom to inspect the rest of the house. When he got outside, he couldn't believe what he saw. His car was completely destroyed that night. Luke had never seen anything like this before. His car was unrecognizable. Parts of it were everywhere, even up in the trees. Later that day, after work, a fellow coworker gave him a ride home. When he walked into his house, he found that everything had been thrown around, mirrors shattered, glass was everywhere, and there were large holes in the walls. He began to feel like he was being hunted by the creature. However, Luke surprisingly decided to stay and make repairs to his home. Luke was determined to prove to everyone that this creature existed. He installed video surveillance everywhere inside and out of his house. Despite his efforts, he just never managed to get any clear footage of the creature. It was like it always knew when he was watching and would disappear into the shadows. One night, in his frustration, Luke ripped all the video cameras off their mounts and threw them into the trash. The situation slowly began to drive Luke insane. Anyone he tried to talk to about the creature back home just laughed, or completely dismissed what he was saying. One day, Luke's mother received a strange phone call from him. He sounded paranoid, his tone was high-pitched, almost like he was overly excited. All he kept saying was that he had figured out a way to deal with it. That time was precious and he had to go, but loved them all. This was the last time anyone talked to Luke. A few days after that phone call, authorities arrived at Luke's house to perform a well-being check on him. After his employer reported that he hadn't been to work for over 3 days. This wasn't normal behavior for Luke, who was generally regarded as a very reliable, hard-working person by his employer. Upon inspection of the home, the police found the front door ajar. It looked like a struggle had taken place. Tables and chairs were knocked over, the television screen was shattered. Various clothing and other items lay everywhere on the floor. There was dried blood on the walls that looked like they were made by human hands being pulled or dragged in the direction of the front door. Luke's wallet and a double-barrel shotgun with a box of ammo were also found inside the home. However, no other trace of him was ever found. Luke's disappearance was a tragic mystery to those who knew and loved him. As for the locals of Brownsmills, New Jersey, they knew what really happened out there in those woods. The GIMP chose him. It came for him. And that was the only truth that mattered. For unimaginable reasons, alive or dead, he was now with the creature. In the end, Luke was just another name on a long list of victims that had claimed to have encountered the cryptid, simply to vanish. If you should ever find yourself in Brownsmills, New Jersey, look straight ahead when you drive, and stick to the main roads only. If you must stay overnight, make sure all your doors and windows are locked and that there is something blocking the window's visibility from the outside when resting. Never approach windows at night, especially if you hear any type of noise coming from the outside. Under no circumstance should you ever travel out into those woods at any time of the day. Unless you desire to join the ranks of the missing people in Brownsmills, New Jersey. To know what they know. That moment of truth. When the creature's intent finally becomes clear. What a horrible fate it must be indeed. Whatever the case may be, you'll certainly never want to know that truth or the revelations that come with it. Avoid the GIMP at all cost. The end.